Hey guys, here today with another Shirogorov knife video. Today we have in front of us the RQ36. Now the RQ36 is the final iteration of the collaboration between RJ Martin and the Shirogorov workshop with Sergey Shirogorov, of course. There were two previous iterations, the original Russian Overkill, which was a titanium frame lock, and also the Soft Overkill, which was a liner lock version with micarta handles. There were three different colors, green, black, and red. Now we have the RQ36, which is also a liner lock, but done with this beautiful titanium bolster and CarboTi handles here. There's a couple other niceties as well, with the blade steel being S110V. We'll talk about that a little bit later as we go on with the features of the knife. But just like all of the other collaborations and overkills, these were released via lottery by Recon One. Fortunately, I was able to get one of these to do a video on, so this being the newest collaboration and also the third iteration of the RJ Martin, it's really awesome that the workshop has saved the best for last. And this one is an absolute stunner. I think this is, if you were going to have one of them to keep in the collection, I think it would have to be this one. The titanium one's pretty close just because I really like titanium frame locks. But let's go ahead and take a look at the knife here. First of all, especially since this is a non-standard design, let's go ahead and compare it to some other knives here. Put up against a neon-sized knife, obviously smaller, and also an F95. And you can see here with the F95, it is very, very similar in size, if not exactly the same. I think the Russian Overkill is just a little tad longer. Now, interestingly enough, however, the workshop does say that it has a 100 millimeter blade as opposed to the F95 being 95. Unfortunately, I think that the way that they measure blade lengths in Russian law, it's based on the pivot or the edge of the handle or something. And as you can see here, the handle does extend a little bit farther on the F95. What that actually means, though, is that I believe the F95 actually does have a blade that does reach out longer. You know, given the fact that the belly of the blades are different too, you can see here that it appears as if the F95 does have a little bit more cutting edge. But overall, they're very similar size knives. And if you are used to carrying an F95 size knife, you shouldn't have any problem pocketing this one as well. But I did want to kind of clear that up since the workshop does say that the Russian Overkill is a 100 millimeter blade. And this applies to all versions, not just the RQ36 as well. But anyways, moving on to the weight. Of course, there being so many different variations and variations that are not just different colors, like the Lee Williams 110 kickstop collaboration, but actual models with different handle materials, different handle configurations. I think that weighing them is very important just to see those differences. Now, taking a look here, we have 4.9 ounces for the knife. Of course, the titanium bolsters are going to have it weigh a little bit more, but I'm very curious to see how this weighs compared to the Soft Overkill here. So 4.9 ounces on the RQ36 and 4.73 on the Soft Overkill. And coincidentally, the titanium one is also 4.7, pretty much the exact same weight, 4.72, 4.73 if I remember correctly. It's probably due to the fact that even though this does have micarta handles, it does have liners, so the overall handle with the liner and the scales ends up being thicker, which is more material than the titanium frame lock version. This one, of course, being just a little bit thicker than the Soft Overkill, not by much, but something that is noticeable when you have the knives put together, which I'll do later, and the titanium bolsters, that probably explains the additional increase in weight here. Now, might as well just take a look at the handle size and the blade lengths real quick here. Taking a look at it, of course, just like the F95, we're looking at, oh, actually, compared to the F95, we're looking at just a tad under 4 inches in blade length. Just going edge to edge here, it looks like 3 and 15/16 here, so just a tad under 4 inches. Taking a look at the overall handle blade open, just a tad under 9 inches as well. And with the knife closed, we are looking at just a little bit under 5 inches. So again, very similar specs to F95, but just a little bit smaller, it seems, for the blade. Now, taking a look at the blade configuration here, we have pretty much the same profile, of course, as the other two knives. We have that beautiful satin flats here, very large flats, as you would expect on the original RJ blade profile, with both logos of the makers, Sergey's on the left side and RJ on the right side here. The finer limited production custom division stonewash finish, which looks absolutely gorgeous, especially on this model. The blade stock is S110V, as you can see here, and that's something that does differ from the other two knives, which were done in M398. So we're gonna get a little bit more edge retention, and I believe, I'm not really too sure, I guess it depends on the heat treat. I'm not a steel snob, but I do believe the toughness values are a little bit different as well, and I do believe that S110V is a little bit more corrosion resistant. I think if you were to ask most collectors, they do prefer the S110V over the M398. And again, the workshop has also been using M398 in a lot of custom divisions, more limited knives. So it's kind of nice to see S110V as well. Combined with that thinner blade stock, it does make for a nicer configuration. Of course, thinner blade stock is going to mean a slicier knife. The first two Russian Overkills did have a 4mm blade stock thickness, and when we line them up together here, you can see that the blade stock on the RQ36 is just a tad thinner at 3.5 versus 4. Now, taking a look at the handle here, if you take a look at the bolster, you can see that we have the radial milling, and this radial milling does continue not only on the bolsters, but also on the beautiful lava and ash pattern CarboTi. Now the lava and ash, red metallic for the primary color with some gray accents behind that, and of course the black from the carbon fiber. It's done this marble pattern here, which is really nice. As you can see on the top half of the CarboTi, you can see it's unmilled and smooth, but on the contoured portion on the bottom half with the radial milling, you can see the layers of the CarboTi, and it looks absolutely gorgeous. This piece right here especially, really love the colors, and it's nice to see that two-tone CarboTi as well. Something that we had originally seen on Sergey's Customs. Looks like we're seeing it on some of the more limited knives as well. Another example of that would be the rose gold magnetic that we see on the Stellaris Custom Division. Of course, index pivot screws, large new screw. Honestly, it's a new standard. Not too much to talk about there. One difference, though, that we do see here is that we have two body screws like the original Russian Overkill, the titanium frame lock, but they are on the show side as opposed to on this side here with, that was how it was on the original titanium version. Now, this was probably done to index the scales here. It seems like there were some problems with wobbly scales on the Soft Overkill, which had one screw here in the back, which was kind of nice. So I'm not sure if that has that too much to do with it. The scales being wobbly on these. This one isn't wobbly, but there were some reports of people having wobbly scales or pivot collars with their knives, wondering if the additional screw here was done to alleviate that. But anyways, the bolster, as you can see here, is also cut in this kind of S-shape curve, kind of unique cut. We haven't seen too many bolster knives from the workshop. Sergey has his full custom F7, a bolster version of that. We have seen the F3B as well. Kind of interesting shape here. I think it does flow with the lines a little bit, but it would have been nice to see something a little bit more interesting in terms of the transition between the bolster and the CarboTi rear handle here. Another thing to note is that the CarboTi is slightly raised. So if you run your finger across it, you can see that it is the front bolster is a little bit lower, and we do have a transition here. I don't think they were trying to have it be seamless or anything, and I do think that it's definitely intentional that the rear CarboTi portion is raised. It is like that on the full custom RQ36 as well, for what it's worth. Now, taking a look at the back here, you can see that we have this kind of relief cut for the lanyard hole. I actually really like this feature, feature that was also present on the Soft Overkill as well, and on the titanium frame lock it's just contoured along with the handles as one piece, not really cut short here that as you see on the Soft Overkill and the RQ36. But I think it's a really nice aesthetic touch here, to kind of have that same styling but just done different to complement the material choice. Now, the bolsters themselves, of note, are darkened titanium alongside with the back spacer. You can see this contrast with the plain titanium coloring of the liner and the clip, which we'll go over in a little bit as we turn the knife over. But there is some interesting colors as well with the titanium here, which I think plays for a good contrast here. Now, taking a look at the other side, just like the Soft Overkill, we have that relief cut here. Of course, this allows you to get your pants under the clip. The clip does work quite well. You know, a lot of people, when they see these designs, they get reminded of the old school F3Bs with the 2-screw clip. Those were just incredibly hard to use, or the Cannabis collaboration from years past. But I'm proud to say that just like the Soft Overkill, there are no problems using this clip. Really good retention, really nice design as well. I love the contouring on the back here, and this motif here, this little scalloping on the inside. Really like that as well. And of course, it's pretty much the same clip that we see across all 3 variations. Now, taking a look here, you can see that the Soft Overkill and the RQ36, both being liner locks, you would think, you know, how are they in terms of thickness? The Soft Overkill is a tad thinner, and I hope I can bring this to your attention. Of course, the blade stock is thinner, which you would think would make the overall knife thinner if nothing else had changed. But it seems that let's take a look here. How should I line these up? If you take a look at the liner, everything past the liner, you can see that the scales on the Soft Overkill are a little bit shorter than the bolster and CarboTi material. See if I can match them up here as well. Really, really hard to tell. Hoping the camera can capture this. But in the hand, the RQ36 does feel a little bit thicker. So while the blade stock thickness is a little bit thinner on the RQ36, overall the knife is just a hair thicker. And honestly, without both of them in the hand, it's a little hard to tell. But I have measured them, and the RQ36 is just a tad thicker. Now, interestingly enough, you can see, taking a look at the inside, we still have that same internal milling, the internal milling going all the way through so that you can see the CarboTi on the other side as well. We have the lock bar insert that is typical of all of the other RQ36s, sorry, the Soft Overkill and the Russian Overkill as well. This being a liner lock, it is press fit and glued in, as there isn't enough material for a screw. So again, this is something that we've seen on Sergey's models as well, such as the F3. So nothing new there. Also, the Neon Zeros also have a pressed lock bar insert, since again, the scales are just too thin to have a screw there for the lock bar insert. The bearing system is SRRBS, same thing as on the Soft Overkill and the original Russian Overkill. Nothing new to expect there. The action, of course, is what you'd expect, incredibly smooth with those rollers and satin flats. And just like the other knives, it still has that signature RJ snap. Some people call it a double detent sounding like thing. I personally relate it to kind of to the sound of a carrot snapping. You know, that flipper tab allows you to get so much leverage that when it just snaps, it snaps really clean, and it's a very satisfying feel. And I'm very impressed that throughout all 3 models, they've managed to keep the action the same. The acoustics, too, have pretty much stayed the same as well. I haven't handled the titanium one in a while, so I don't remember that one too much. But the acoustics on the Soft Overkill and the RQ36 are exactly the same in the action as well. You know, your D10 might be a little bit stronger or weaker than somebody else's or your other previous knives, but the action is going to feel very similar, and I think that's a really good thing. I think at this point, the action is not something that you really want to be changing, just kind of the appearances and configuration. But overall, that's pretty much it for this model. Really glad to see, again, that they saved the best for last. This CarboTi, amazing pattern. I love the layering, the colors, the two-tone. The bolster is very classy, and the S110V blade in that 3.5 millimeter blade stock, I think it's just the cherry on top. Just kind of a unique blade configuration that's different than the first two. It just makes it that much more special. And I'm really excited to see what the next collaboration will be. I'm very sure this is the last one. I know I stated that kind of matter-of-factly, but the fact that, you know, the Lee Williams collaboration with the 3 colors and the Russian Dr. Death with the Arctic coming years later makes that 3 as well. I'm pretty sure that we're not going to be seeing any more of these. So onwards to the Cook collaboration whenever that happens. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. See you guys next time.